Hi everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. It's going to be a quicker one this week because we lost Warwick. And I'm quite glad we found out we lost Warwick before we started. So it's just Newbury for you today, and it's 4 races in their entirety. And hopefully we found some bets for you. 2 are very competitive, 2 not so competitive. Dan Overall is always competitive. He loves the jumps. And ex-national hunt jockey Charlie Post is with us. And as you can see, I'm not Nick Luck or Ruby Walsh, but there we are. Forever barrel scraping with me, Team Matchbook, but here I am. For now, because my Dubai Wi-Fi seems ropey as well. So there you are. I think we should get stuck straight in and keep it brief, but get stuck into the Betfair hurdle first of all. A reminder to like and subscribe because it makes it easier for you to digest all of our content across all sports. And it's the best no-cost way of supporting the podcast. And also episode 10 of the Cheltenham Trail, the DRF review is out now. That went out on Tuesday. And I'm on next week, so there you are. So lots to look forward to as far as the Cheltenham Trail goes. And this week's Matchbook Cheltenham Trail puts up a few bets going forward. Another excellent episode with Don McLean, Matt Toombs, and the like. All right, here we go then. First up, the Betfair hurdle. It is nice and competitive. And Iberica Lord and Casa de Mott share favouritism currently at 7.0, 8.5 for Altabelli, Look Away 13.0, as is Tell Her the Name. And with that, I'm going to come straight to Dan Overall. How are you and who do you like?
Yeah, I'm very well. I was at the DRF and I'm just about recovered. And the journey back on Monday was the worst day of my life. So I'm only really just hitting full stride. So I think that tells its own story. But here, Tell Her the Name, I think there's a lot to like about him, to be honest. It's just all of his form seems to be stacking up bar that one blip. Obviously, that Ascot maiden hurdle with Django Bai now looks extremely strong. I know Django Bai was going to be slightly disappointing in the Sydney Banks last time out, but still a grade 1 winner. Then he easily beat Lucky Place, who was now rated 137 after giving Gidley Park a bit of a scare on trials day. I mean, you can forgive Aintree. It was just too bad to be true. And it was quite encouraging to see him turned out so quickly after and get straight back on track with a facile victory, beating a couple of really smart horses. Everything this horse does just oozes class to me. And Ben Pauling has spoken so glowingly about him already, saying he could be the best horse he's ever trained. Obviously, the only concern with him, I guess, is he going to run? Because obviously the ground is getting more testing, probably more testing than they would have expected. And they're looking as a long-term aim, maybe towards the Supreme. So you may not run him if the ground isn't ideal. But if they do run him, I think that tells you a lot about what they think about his chances. I think he's still well handicapped. Novices have a great record in the race, and the yard are absolutely flying at the minute.
My next question was going to be the ground because Ben Pauling has said they don't want too much rain. But what are we working on, Charlie, ground-wise? I feel it'd be soft and it might be a little tacky because there won't be any rain around on Saturday. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it even getting towards heavy. I mean, while you're sat in the sunshine there, mate, as in over here, you literally need a raft to get around. I mean, like I say, we were nearly drafting in the arc at the yard yesterday. I mean, as the rain absolutely poured down. So yeah, I'd be working that conditions could be worse than soft. I mean, like you say, if we have a dry night, it might dry up a little bit, but I'm in Lambourne this morning, so not far from Newbury, and it's continued to rain this morning. So yeah, conditions are going to be very testing. Tell Her the Name. I mean, I thought Dan's case is absolutely spot on. Ben Paulins are flying. Can definitely see the case for that one. Ultra competitive this, and I wanted to go for something a little bit bigger, and then I came down with Dottie the Great. He made an excellent return at Ascot after a monster absence, and then finished second to my old mate Go Dante at Cheltenham. I mean, probably I should be putting him up, but deserting him this time, as this horse is slightly better off at the weights with him now. I think the Scottish Champion hurdle was muted for obvious reasons with the name as a spring target for this horse. And I don't see why he can't pick up a race like this on the way through. His mark is 100% workable. He's gone on soft ground. Again, the imponderable is if the conditions are incredibly testing, but I think that's the same for plenty of them. So yeah, Dottie the Great win and place for me.
Just a quick update on the going as well, because I'm just reading it off the official update. So it's heavy, soft in places. Going should improve slightly with a dry 18 plus hours ahead. No concerns about the meeting being called off, but yeah, looking heavy, soft in places currently.
Testing. Because I'm going to put up a Casa de Mott at the prices. He's obviously the most intriguing horse in the race. Can I ask you for a line each on him and why? You know, technically we've got a horse who's well in on his Irish mark here, which is almost unheard of. Why not a Castle de Mott? He seems really obvious. Dan, first of all.
Well, no, he is very obvious. I guess Willie Mullins doesn't have the best record in the race, but he's a bit of a blip in the handicap system because he's the British handicapper, just doubles the French mark. So 1 kilo to £2. And he was entered at the DRF in the 2-mile handicap. And initially he was given the same mark, 133. And then he was reassessed like a day later and given 139. So it just made sense to run him here. He's just one of those rare blips because we have the early entries as well for the BETFAIR hurdle and the early weights come out. And then the Irish handicappers has his own say. So, I mean, he is blaringly obvious. And if he wins doing handstands, you're laughing. But at the same time, he isn't really on that mark in Ireland properly because he hasn't actually run in Ireland yet. So it isn't exactly the same, but completely see it. And he probably should be clear favourite.
Charlie?
Yeah, completely. I mean, look, it's glaringly obvious. And I'm definitely not saying he can't win. I just wanted to play something at a bigger price. But I mean, I think the way they've talked about him as well, Anthony Bromley, I think spoke glowingly about this horse. He's by Casa de Burle, who's one of the sort of young up-and-coming French sires as well. The credentials for him are very, very obvious. And if this horse took the race apart, it'd be no surprise, would it? So, yeah, as in, like I said, just for me, I wanted to play something where I could play in both markets, and he probably doesn't offer that opportunity.
I was just surprised that he wasn't clear favourite. And, you know, with 7.0 around win and place, I just thought he was a bit of a no-brainer because if there was something that's going to take it apart, I mean, if there is something that's, I know, there's a few that could be well in. I agree with Tell Her the Name. I'm going to put up another novice, but I want him on side at those prices because I genuinely thought he was going to go off about 4.0. So while he's that, I'm going to take it at Castle de Motte. And the other one I want to back with a fleshier case is Norman Fletcher. There's one thing about this race which you see time and time again, and that's that horses on the speed win it. And that's normally, doesn't always happen, but that's normally because they have a full start. And last year, again, they ended up having a standing start and Auchenris made all. And those that were out the back just never got into it. It's something to do with the start in between hurdles. They don't have too long to sort themselves out. And it fries their heads a bit, maybe runners and riders. And it so often pays to play speed on the speed in this race. So Norman Fletcher ticks that box perfectly. He, for connections that have won this before, testing ground is absolutely no problem whatsoever. The reason he's the price he is because he was beaten in a race that looks weakish form last time. A young claimer rode the horse. I'm not saying got it wrong at all, but it just crawled. And then it was almost outspeeded towards the finish. Not that the horse is slow, but I think that he will go quicker here. Obviously, this is now into handicap company. I was pretty impressed with what he did the time before that on testing ground. I don't know if he's well in, but he ticks a lot of boxes on the speed. Connections have won it before. He's got a supreme entry. They obviously think a bit of him, even though I doubt he'll take that up now. And he's a big old price at 29.0 win and place. So that's me. Anything else to say about this race, chaps?
I'll just give a slight nod to Loda Surd because he was on the Horses to Follow video we did months ago now, and obviously disappointed in the Great Wood. It was an odd one because he was actually very well about the evening before, then really weak on the day, went well to a point and just completely stopped. I still believe they've kept him back on over hurdles because they think there's a big pot in him. I think the testing conditions will suit. If they have sorted out whatever was wrong with him in the Great Wood, I could see him running better than he did there at 21.0. And I probably will have a little saver on him because if he somehow wins this and I've added a penny on, I will kick myself.
There's lots of Horses to Follow that were put up that have done very well, incidentally. The likes of Captain Teague, who's won a grade one. Sir Gino went up having never raced. Who else? Ballyburn went up never having raced. So that's well worth revisiting. Although you've missed them all now. But we will blow our own trumpet at some point. Don't you worry. Going into the Cheltenham Festival. Dan, did you hear the good news? Best bet from last week, A Dream to Share, has just crossed the finish line. Yeah, what a shocker. Yeah. I feel like I was backed into putting him up as my best bet by Matt Toombs, who was absolutely spot on about him, by the way. There we are. You didn't back A Dream to Share, Dan, did you?
No. I was on You Ought to Know. No, that was a producer, Dan. It must have been. Can't be me.
Yeah.
There he is.
Oh, you're muted though.
I don't think it was as clear. Tom put it up as his best bet. Just FYI there. So. Yeah.
I put it up as my best bet. Thanks, Dan. And and he ran shit.
There we are. Another day, another dollar.
I had an absolutely shocking, barring a big price second, I had a shocking DRF. There we are. It happens, right? I think most people did, for
Dubai.
Christ's sake. Yeah, stick to Dubai.
Yeah, I did, to be
I've
fair.
a few of those. Yeah. Right, we move on. The Betfair Demon Chase. Shishkin's at the top of the betting, 1.6. Protectorat is 3.5. Hitman, 13.0. Bigger prices than the rest. I'm a no bet here, but I do just want a very quick mention on Shishkin. As things stands, he's my Gold Cup bet. So you're thinking I should back him here. I know, but he is. But I can't take this price about him. I mean, I don't think Protectorat is any good. Hitman's got a hole in him. Shishkin just should win this, but he's just not a short price at this stage for me because of those quirks he has. I'm sitting it out, and I'm going to sit back and watch him bolt up and enjoy doing so. Charlie?
Well, yeah, good luck with that. I mean, Protectorat's no good. Poor Protectorat. As in, I'm not sure what he's done to offend you. I mean, like don't get me wrong, his Betfair Chase defense wasn't great, but I thought he ran it really well at Cheltenham under a welter burden, and the form behind long press, I think, is fine. You know, he was giving him weight there as well, and time might prove. Well, it probably was an impossible task. I just think he's proven in these incredibly demanding conditions, and for me, at the prices, he's 3.5 as opposed to Shishkin, who's 1.61. And I just think, yeah, at the prices, he is a bet at that, because I mean, Shishkin is ultra talented, but Christ, he comes with risks attached, and I mean, anyone that's going to wade in on him at that price is crazy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess in comparison to Shishkin, it's a raw ability thing. I think Shishkin has an absolute bundle more ability. His last win, Protectorat, he beat Eldorado Allen 11 lengths, which looks all right, I guess. But that was the race that Aplutop pulled up. I don't know. He just hasn't always delivered. But this isn't the top level, so there we are. Dan?
I mean, you've kind of mentioned it. Shishkin is just finding new enigmatic ways to get beat. Like, you've got to really admire it to a certain extent. Doesn't go a yard sometimes in the Ryanair on ground that was soft. Obviously, that's going to be an issue here. They've said time and time again that he doesn't want soft to heavy ground. He's going to get that here. Obviously, then he refused to race, and then he had the race at his mercy, and then just tripped up a furlong after a fence. You really have to.
Do you think he'd have definitely won?
Yeah, do you think so?
It was a Hewick backer, definitely not. I think Hewick had him covered, but it's just older. I think, realistically speaking, he was going better than Allaho and Bravemans's game, who didn't exactly find much between them. I think he would have beat Hewick a length, maybe. I think that's how it would have gone.
What do you think, Charlie? What do you think, Charlie?
I think Hewick would have won regardless, if I'm honest. I'm not sure. I mean, yes, Shishkin was going marginally better than the other two, but I didn't think he was keeping on that well. And the way Hewick picked up from the back of the last, I think he might have beaten him irrespective of whether Shishkin stood up or not, if I'm honest.
I think it would have been a dead heat.
Glad we sorted that out.
Yeah, done. Is that Her Majesty the Queen over your shoulder there? The late, great... It is, isn't it?
I think it's the Queen Mother, isn't it?
Oh, is it the Queen Mother? My apologies, Your Majesty. There we are. Okay, she's just on top of your head. It is. What's the horse, Charlie?
Miyako Bay, her 400th winner.
Okay, we're not in your house, are we?
No, we're in Oaksey House this morning. Yeah,
I thought this was something personal to you, but it's not. But she's beautifully framed, like a little parrot on your shoulder.
Yeah,
there we are. Good. Dan Hussey can remove that awful segment from the podcast. Right, we can move on.
Unless, of course, back in the day, she was a player on Matchbook. Who knows?
Yeah, she may have left this world before Matchbook. I don't know. When that sad day was. But there we are. No. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
The game spirit is competitive. We've got Edwardstone in there at 2.3, Boot Hills in there at 3.25, Editor de Gite is 6.5 for Nabal Silva. We'll get into the bigger price. I don't think we're putting any of those up. Again, I tied myself in knots, and I've gone no bet. But I think this race is perfect for Edwardstone because they're going to go hard, him back over 2 miles. If he's back to his John Bond form in the Tingle Creek, he'll win. But I just wonder where his head is. So I couldn't get my head around it, and therefore I'm sitting it out. Dan, you are going for a big price, 12.0.
Just readily dismissed me, didn't you? I just think this is such a trappy race. It inspires something at a big price. I mean, Edward Stone, you mentioned, if he can run up to that Tingle Creek form, the form behind John Bond, that gives him a favourite's chance. But you have to question now the 10-year-old who hasn't won for a while and maybe isn't putting his all in at finishes and was far too keen the last day, whether he's still the same horse. Boots Hill was obviously up, still progressing, although I'm just not sure he wants ground this testing. Etta de Jeet's won 1 race this season. On the other 3, he's been beaten a combined 123 lengths. For number Civil, I napped 2 weeks ago on this show when he won running a handicap, and I thought was just very disappointing. With Calico was there, who performed better than him. I think all his price is purely based on the fact he's won this last twice, but I'm not sure he's still the same horse for number Civil. So that came to Amarillo Sky, who before, when we last saw him, was still very progressive. It was running well in the Clarence House, apparently got jarred up that day, hence the reason for a bit of a break. And it also gives a bit of an excuse as to why he was beaten 9 lengths. And to only be beaten 9 lengths on that occasion, you can probably mark that run up. Looked very progressive before then. 2 wins at Newbury over fences, would have won his other one as well, had he not fallen. And reading the stable tours from early in the season, this was always the plan to get him back. Like, they always had this race in mind, probably because they know he loves Newbury. And they're also still believing that he can run in those Grade 1 races in the spring. Obviously, if he's going to do that, he's going to have to run very well here, even on the back of an absence. But bearing in mind, this has been a bit of a long-term plan since his setback. I'm not overly concerned about his fitness. And as I said, I just think this is incredibly trappy. Probably the trappiest race of the weekend, had all the meetings gone ahead anyway. It's just really one of those. So I think at a big price, I think 12.0 currently, Amarillo Sky would be my tentative selection there.
And Charlie with Boot Hill, who I can't work out how they're going to ride this horse. I always thought he was better from the front, but I'm not sure they'll do that.
No, I agree. I definitely don't think they'll ride him from the front. I was keen to be with something that wasn't going to have to go forward, because as you said yourself, there's a lot of pace in this. I was anti Edward Stone. I mean, granted, I know he's going to come back in trip, but he was too keen the last day. I definitely don't think tomorrow's one of those days where if you're going to race through the bridle early on, you're not going to get home. So I was anti him. And look, there's a chance Boot Hill might not turn up. He was a non-runner in the Tingle Creek on account of heavy ground. So if that's the case, so be it. But if he does pitch up, I'd rather be with him as a progressive horse in this field with pace to aim at. And like I say, I'm just very much against Edward Stone.
Okay, Boot Hill at 3.25. We done there? Yes, indeed. Okay, we're going to the opener, or not the opener, but the earlier race. It's a staying handicap hurdle, and it's pretty open and competitive. So price-wise, we have got Kintara just about heading at 6.0, Emerton 7.0 as is Young Butler, G.A. Henty is 7.5, bigger prices thereafter. Right, well, Emerton and Young Butler seem to have the form here, and Charlie and I are either side of the fence. So, Charlie, you first of all, Emerton.
Yeah, I came down with Emerton. I mean, he's done well. Obviously, he was a very talented performer previously for Warren Greatrex, and Alan King has reinvigorated him to a degree. He won on stable debut here off 1-2-2. I think he's off 1-3-2 now. Popped up another 2 for his second the last day behind St. Davy, who of course franked that form at Sandown last weekend. You know, I just think this lad, he's a proper slogger. He goes very well on bad ground. He loves Newbury, and you know, this 3-mile handicap hurdle could end up very, very demanding test. And I probably wanted to side with one that was a bit more of a gnarly veteran for these sort of conditions, but then maybe a younger progressive one coming through. And yeah, 7.0. I think, you know, I'll play Emerton win and place in this race.
And I'll go for Young Butler purely because I thought he was pretty good value for that success last time. I would assume it's the plan to have been off since then, but it is a little while, so that's a worry. But a £6 rise for that. The ground, if it's very testing, recent form has been on a sound surface. Although earlier in the career he did seem to handle a little bit of cut. I guess that's my one concern, is whether or not he'll handle if it's very testing. But I don't know. It's obvious, isn't he? I thought he should be clear favourite. Maybe he's not because he's been off for a little while, but that performance was pretty conclusive, and I thought that he'd be a little bit shorter than he is in comparison to Emerton. So, but I can see the case for him. It was one of those two for me, but I'll go Young Butler at a point shorter. And Dan?
I never thought the day would come where I'd back Kintara again, but here we are, because this horse proved a complete rogue the last couple of seasons before he went to Melroley. If you remember, he won a Warwick bumper by basically 20 lengths, looking like the world was his oyster a few seasons ago. And after then, he just basically decided he hated the game. It just seemed he just would not put his head down. He would not put his best foot forward. And Melroley's done an unbelievable job in turning this horse inside out. He's now turned into the model of consistency, which is just... would never have been thought that possible, but won his first 2 starts this season, did that fairly cozily. Would have won last time out as well had he not stumbled after the last. That definitely cost him the victory on that occasion. Obviously, a new mark, 128, does demand more of him, but the ability he showed previously suggests he can handle that. And I think crucially, like you guys have mentioned, he'll handle the conditions. He'll be ridden forward, which I think in these conditions can be an advantage because it can be hard to pick up ground. He stays this trip, absolutely no problem whatsoever. He's actually shown a propensity to love heavy ground and 3 miles. And I just think that's going to be crucial here. And I'd say with that old ability still intact, he could be just steadily keeping on and winning more races despite that revised mark.
Okay, they're all a similar sort of price, 6.5, 7.5 and 7.0. We come to our any other bets section. I just wanted to mention Carbon King for Evan Williams. Now, he was entered to run at Utoclita. He was going to go back into a handicap chase, and the meeting's been abandoned. I feel like he's a horse. He's entered in a novice chase and a per temps qualifier, nonetheless, at the weekend. I don't know what to make of that. I feel like if he runs in a handicap chase, he's worth backing. So I wanted to mention him because I think he's worth keeping an eye on because he was very good 2 starts ago before being sent up in grade with no chance. Back in a handicap chase, I'll back him. Dan, you have got one. You got a couple more at Newbury.
Yeah, no real choice in terms of the racing unless I turn into a Dubai expert all of a sudden. So, yeah, I think there is a couple of interesting ones at the end of Newbury. Making your mind up in the novice handicap chase. Was he very good novice hurdler last season, won a grade 2. Hasn't really kicked on over fences maybe expected, but promising 4th on chase debut in a race that's worked out pretty well. At the time, the yards are just needing the run. I'll forgive him his disappointment at Leicester last time out because Leicester Heavy could be a different beast entirely, and not many horses can really handle that. That was behind Apple Away, who's obviously no mug in her own right. Obviously, while the ground will be testing here, it won't be that bad. All his wins have come left-handed. Scope off 131 still, given his hurdles form. And Paul Nicholls has won this 2 of the last 3 years and normally runs a decent horse in it. And also in the bumper at the end, Union Avenue. This race normally produces a pretty decent winner. It doesn't tend to go to the likes of Paul Nicholls and Nicky Henderson and those you'd associate with the top-class bumpers. It tends to go to one of those like more middle-sized trainers you maybe wouldn't associate with the top bumper horses. But Union Avenue for Jimmy Moffat looks a really exciting prospect. Took a big step forward last time out when beating Farland of Paul Nicholls, who they were very excited about. He was 4th to Predator's Gold in the Land Rover bumper last season. Obviously, Predator's Gold now a dual grade 1 runner-up. Admittedly, he was a bit wayward when he faced Union Avenue. Is hanging a bit to his left and looked a bit awkward, but Union Avenue was giving him weight, and ultimately it was his attitude that won him the race, and they pulled well clear. And I think a good attitude and a bit of experience is going to prove key with testing conditions, and they've already said that this is a horse who really wants soft ground. So I think he could be a bit overlooked by the market, given he's not trained by prominent connections you'd associate with top-level bumper horses.
All right, we move on to the Matchbook Zero long shot. Don't forget, this goes live at 10 a.m. The market's a Matchbook Zero. You're most likely to be getting best odds. The reason being that the nature of an exchange means that odds should be enhanced. And with Matchbook Zero, they're further enhanced because there's no commission and there's zero margin as well. So it's well worth taking advantage of. If you want a win bet on a horse, we're picking out some decent prices for you to take advantage of those enhanced odds. Mine is Norman Fletcher in the Betfair Hurdle for reasons I've given already. Oh, Charlie, I was with this horse as well at Warwick. Who's not going to run now, the Venetia Williams horse, Buxy des Epierre. But there you go, it's not going to happen. But I think he's worth keeping an eye on going forward. But who is your new long shot?
I mean, I know this is against the what we're supposed to do, but I'll have Donny the Great in the Betfair Hurdle as well now. You know, as in he's 26.0.
And Dan,
I'll go with Amarillo Sky in the Game Spirit. I think 13.0 currently.
Okay. And best lays, just you, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm just going to take Edwardstone on. I think, as Dan Overall said, it's a trappy race. There's plenty that you can make cases for in that, and I just didn't like the way he went about it. So keen at the last day. Granted, it was up in trip, but even back down. The conditions are going to be testing tomorrow, and if he's that way inclined again, I could see him not seeing this out, and I think there's plenty of them that potentially can pick the pieces up. So Edwardstone.
Best bets, which I haven't put mine in yet. Silly me. I'm going to go with Norman Fletcher again at the prices. I'm only putting up 3 horses all day, but at the prices, I think he is the best bet. He's dramatically overpriced, and there's a lot that should suit the horse in the Betfair hurdle. And we have got one per race. That's a beautiful sight.
Rare
Charlie,
sight.
This is unbelievable. Who are you with, Charlie?
In the Denman Chase, the horse that Tom Stanley said is useless.
No good, I said. No good. He's no good. It technically means the same, but he's no good. If you're watching Dan Skelton, I don't know, he likes me anyway.
Understandable.
He never doesn't now. He's not of the talent of Shishkin. I'm digging. There we are. He'll probably go and win. I hope he does go and win for Matchbook Podcast bettors.
Oh, man of class always.
Damn.
I'll go with Making Your Mind Up in the 350 and Novice Handicap Chase.
Good stuff. That's it. A brief one because we only had one meeting and 4 races to preview. But we got some great Queen Mother chat and plenty of bets as well. So what more do you want? Like and subscribe if you want more of that each and every week. And frankly, there she is. Beautiful coat. Why wouldn't you? Charlie Post, Dan Overall. Your hand on your heart. Oh, good.
The wheels are
well
coming
done,
off.
everyone. Well done. It was brief, but it frankly was still poor. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.